And what I also find that affects a lot of people is the mindset, especially if you've decided that the United States is going to be the country where you want to reside or live for the rest of your life. The dual, the ambivalence as to where is home becomes a problem. Because if your mindset is not here, that I live here now, this is home, and I'm going to do everything to build a home, to build a life here, that ambivalence also slows people down. You know, some will make the money, send it back to Africa to build a house they will never live in. Meanwhile, they are living in a condition here that is like either at the poverty level or below poverty level, but they have a mansion in Africa. So that ambivalence as to mindset, and like I said, most people don't move back. But then, where they have their, like they, I'm going to use like a Bible quote, where your heart is, that's where your treasure lies. If you put your treasure in a place where you're not making money and doing everything where you're really making a living, you're going to have a problem growing there because you're always going to feel like I'm a stranger here. And when you feel like you're a stranger or a visitor somewhere, you don't bring a chair or a bed to someone else's home because you're always going to feel like, you know what? I don't belong here. This doesn't belong to me.
Hi everyone that's gonna watch this video. I'm not gonna say much. I'm gonna let him introduce himself.
Oh, my name is Emmanuel Olawale. I'm the owner of the Olawale Law Firm, a law firm based in Columbus, Ohio. We practice immigration law and injury law. And I'm also an author of two books, The Flavor of Favor, Quest for the American Dream, and Starting and Growing a Law Practice Without Breaking the Bank.
Congratulations for all of those amazing accomplishments. And I know there is so much more coming your way because you deserve all the things that you want to accomplish. But I would like to go back in time because somebody be like, what? He owns a law firm, he's the author, but that wasn't like that. That is something that get you to this point. So can you take us back of who you were and the things you went through to accomplish all of these goals?
Well, I came to the US in 1997, as a young immigrant, I'm looking for better opportunities in the quest for the American dream. I started my journey in Staten Island, New York. And my goal at that time was to make sure that I completed college, regardless of what it's going to take. So I ended up working my way through college, with two jobs, sometimes three jobs, and also going to school full time. So in my college years, I work as a security guard. I work as a caregiver. I work as a store clerk. I also held a job as a telemarketer. So I was juggling all these jobs while also going to school full time, but if I stop working, I won't be able to take care of myself because I have to pay the rent, I have to feed myself, I have to, live. And at the same time, I know that I can't stop going to school because I know that those jobs are just a stepping stone for the future. So those are the sacrifices that I had to make at that time. It was very tough. It was very crazy because I remember there was one time my schedule was like, I'll go to school in the morning between 9 and 2:30. I will start a care job from 3:30 until 4:30. Then I will, from 3 to 4. Then I will rush to another job from 4:30 until 11:30. And I will start another one from 12 to 8. Just round the clock. I was busy doing something. But what they taught me, well, they I learned how to be, how to persevere, how to put in the work, how to go after the goal without considering what the sacrifices are. Because eventually the things I did back then, they were seeds for the future.
Since you were struggling, things were not working the way you want, you are in pain, you had to work overtime. I can assume a lot of me being a full-time student as well and having a couple jobs, I can relate because sometimes it gets stressful. Sometimes you don't even know if you're gonna sleep 5 hours a day. You don't even know if you're gonna have time to eat lunch. But you were going through those things. What get you going, or why did you keep going? Even though there was pain, there was misery, there was stress. What get you going? You could have quit and give up and do something else because of the amounts of pain, but you kept going. Why? Why did you keep going even though you were suffering so much?
Yeah, the thing is that, I was raised with the value from my parents that education is is one of the few ways to get out of poverty. Otherwise, what will happen is that no, it's not, the problem was not having a job. But the question is, what kind of job would you want to do permanently? So the jobs that I was doing then, I loved them for that time. But I also knew that that's not what I want to do forever. So that's why I call them the stepping stone. So the fact that even some of the indignities of the job on some days are the inspiration for the future. Because if something happens on the job that I didn't like, I'll be like, okay, well, it's only for now. It's not going to be like this in 5 years. It's not going to be like this in 10 years. So the looking forward to the future and knowing that, this is just a journey and I have to go through all this ups and downs, that is what was inspiring. And giving up was not even an option, not even for 1 second. And the thing also is that I was doing pretty very well in school. And when you are succeeding at something, it's not easy to quit.
You just said that you mentioned something very important, that education is one of the few ways, you say few ways to get out of poverty. What are the other ways somebody can get out of poverty?
Well, the only one that I know is education. If you get education, it's easier to level the playing field for you because it opens more doors. There could be other ways, maybe if someone who was born into, well, anyway, if you're already in poverty, so someone who's born into wealth already may not need education because they already have that privilege. But someone who doesn't have connection, who is already in poverty. So the only other way is that if they are lucky to have a good capital to start a business, or if they start the business from scratch and the business succeed, those are the way. Those are some of the ways. But as far as I was concerned, I know that education is going to be the path for me. So, and that's the path that I followed. Because I know of other people that follow other paths, but then, the question is that you might be going to the same destination, but you may not be following the same route.
What is poverty to you? Because I'm asking because at least for me, when I first got here, there was a time that I couldn't pay for fries in my school, and the fries were 99 cents. So what I was doing, I was bringing like maybe 20 cents. My friend back then would be like 50 cents, and with his coins and my coins, we can afford to pay for fries for 99 cents. But even though I didn't have the money for those fries, I have never ever called myself poor. I have never said, oh no. I always said I'm rich, I'm successful, I'm abundant. Yes, I didn't have the money in my pocket, but I have never seen myself as a poor person. What do you think? Do you think poverty is a state of mind? How do you conceive poverty?
Poverty can be a mindset, because you can have all the riches in the world and still be poor in spirit. But there's also objective poverty, where numbers don't lie. If the government set up what in the poverty level as to how much income you have to make to be considered poor, or to be considered middle class or upper class or whatnot. If the money you make, if it falls into the poverty line, you're poor, whether or not you acknowledge it or not. And the same also applies to if you have abundant wealth and your mindset, you don't believe that you're rich. Objectively, objectively, you're rich. But subjectively, if your mindset says otherwise, that's up to you. Because, for instance, now, if let's say, to qualify for certain things, you need certain amount of income. If that income, if you don't have it, regardless, you're still going to be considered poor. So, but the mindset as to inspiring ourselves, motivating ourselves to say, you know what, I'm not poor, I'm wealthy, I have things in abundance. It is good. It can help you not feel the sting of poverty. And, but essentially, like I said, numbers don't lie. Objectively, some things that you might need to do and that you're lacking, then that's when you feel the sting of poverty. So poverty is also not just the absence of finances or money. It's also the absence of opportunities. Because with abundant opportunities, it's easier to get out of poverty. That's the difference between what I see in the American system and in most African countries' system. Most people in African countries, like Nigeria, for instance, what they lack, a lot of people lack opportunities. And what we get here in the United States is opportunities. So when you get those opportunities, it's easier to get out of poverty or the lack of money, objectively.
Opportunities can be created, right? Do you agree with that?
Opportunities can be created under the right condition.
Because as you say, for instance, let's talk about our amazing people from our African brothers and sisters. Sometimes, this is my view, this is my opinion, I can be wrong. When we are interacting and maintaining conversations, I find a scenario where most of them end up blaming, oh, it's my country, oh, it's the corruption, oh, it's the politician, oh, it's the weather, oh, it's the... But I'm like, what about you? What it is that you are doing to take yourself out of poverty? Because you're going to find somebody saying, oh, it's the government that keeping me poor. But the same person, their own habits, their own behaviors is keeping them poor, but they do not see it because they prefer to say, oh, it's the government, it's the corruption. But what about them themselves? Do you see that too in the Africans that you spoke with just me? And how can we change that from them instead of blaming themselves? Instead of blaming the system, because at least I believe no matter how much you can blame somebody else or something else, nothing is going to change until you start blaming yourself. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, everyone has to take responsibilities for their life, because even when we talk about the opportunities that abound in the US, it's not everyone who is in the United States that is taking advantage of that. And you find out that what makes it different is that the same opportunities that it's like, I would look at it like as if soil. You have like different kind of soil. Some are like fertile ground where you plant something and it grows abundantly because of the resources, because that ground is very, very fertile. And then in other grounds, you can still plant, it's going to grow, but then you don't have a lot of resources in that ground for it to grow. So that's what I see as the difference between the two for some people. You find out that the people who are already like hardworking from from wherever they migrated from, when they come to the US, it just becomes easier because there's so many things that they put in place in this country that can help make your seed grow out much more abundantly than if you are in places where there isn't a lot of opportunities. So, but you can still create your own opportunity, but within the limitation of your environment.
Talk about that. How does environment impact us? How does environment can change us? Because I agree that the environment you are in, you become that.
Exactly. Okay. For instance, now, if you are coming from a place where there's a war, you can, and then there's bombing all around, people are dying all around you. Nothing is moving. There's no business. There's no whatnot. There's no opportunities you can create in that situation. So no matter how much you will yourself, no matter how much you say, you know what, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. That's your environment limiting your opportunity. Then you come to another country where there's peace, there's infrastructure, there's 24-hour electricity, everything is working, the banking system is working, the transportation system is working. And then, you're able to buy a car, you're able to move around. And if you don't have a car, you have a train that walks every 5 to 10 minutes. Though that's an environment that can inspire even growth and that will create even more opportunities. That's why environment is also very important when it comes to talking about opportunities. And sometimes too, when we live in a country like the United States, where there is a lot of system that works, some of the things that we talk about growth or things to do as motivation, it may not work for some people who live in different other countries where they don't have some of those infrastructures or systems in place. And you find that a lot of people around the world they may not be lazy, but they may not just have the opportunities to shine, to express their talent, to express their skills. For instance, in countries where you go to college, you have a bachelor degree, master's degree, and all that, but there's no job. And maybe what you study doesn't even, what you study is not something that you can just open your own business. Then maybe, you come from a family already where there are no finances, where there isn't a lot of money. So how do you get capital? When you go to the bank, they're not going to give it to you because everything is just lopsided in that place. So for a person like that, one can look at them and for instance, the reason they went to school is so that they wouldn't have to do some certain jobs. And let's assume that the kind of opportunities that is available is for them to do something far way beneath their qualification. So in a situation like that, the person they have the education because they went to school, but there's no job because there's high unemployment rate in that country. They have no money to start a business. Someone like that, you can preach to them in the United States way, like, oh, why don't you just do this? Why don't you just do that? But it's easier for a person with two legs to tell another one who is on wheelchair that it's easy to run. You first have to get rid of the wheelchair first and be able to walk on your 2 feet before you can run. That's the difference between opportunities and the lack thereof.
You mentioned education as one of the ways to simply have a successful life, which I agree. But for me, at least what I do is I differentiate education with formation. Because, for example, formation, in my perspective, is what you can receive in school, kindergarten, college, university. But education is what you receive from life. Because I have met a lot of people who have degrees, but they don't have common sense. They don't have critical thinking. So I have met people who have never went to school, but they have critical thinking, they have common sense. So if somebody wants to acquire education, do you think that the only way to be educated is by going to school?
Education itself is structured learning. You know, but what the kind of education I'm talking about is not just about knowing, it's about going through the structure, the structure of the school system where society will recognize, where someone will be willing to pay for your skill just because you have that acknowledgement next to your name. You could be the brightest mind in the world, but if you don't have money, money is what, you know, for instance, like I said, for you to get out, for them to recognize it. If you have money, you might not even need that much. Because if you have money, you can propagate your own gospel. If you don't, if you want people to give you credibility or to give you a job or to start your own, to be able to get something that will give you that step up, that's why you need that structured education to give you that emblem of approval.
What are the things? What are some? It can be behaviors, it can be attitude, it can be habits, it can be a mindset. What are the things you, in your perspective, the amount of knowledge you have, you see that Africans are doing that are stopping them from succeeding? And how can they change those things so they can become successful?
Yeah, for a lot of immigrants, especially, you know, Africans, most of the what I see, there are a lot of impediments that affect success in this country as an immigrant. One of them is that, and you also have to recognize that even moving from one country to another one to start a new life is traumatic.
Yes.
That itself, some people never recover from that trauma. You know, that's one, you know, because, you know, but a lot of people don't see it like that. They will miss their homeland, they will miss their families. And you also have to understand like the conditions upon which some people came. Some comes with the hope that, oh my God, I'm coming to somewhere that is heavenly where things are going to be easier, only to get here to find out that the reality is that there are struggles here too. There are poor people here. There are, you know, things just don't come easy. That's one. That's two. The third, you know, some people will come without papers. When you can't even overcome that barrier of not having the ability to work, the ability to just walk anywhere and request to be given the opportunity. That itself affects you. And what I also find that affects a lot of people is the mindset, especially if you've decided that the United States is going to be the country where you want to reside or live for the rest of your life. The the ambivalence as to where is home becomes a problem. Because if your mindset is not here, that I live here now, this is home, and I'm going to do everything to build a home, to build a life here, that ambivalence also slows people down. You know, some will make the money, send it back to Africa to build a house they will never live in. Meanwhile, they are living in a condition here that is like either at the poverty level or below poverty level, but they have a mansion in Africa. So that ambivalence as to mindset, and like I said, most people don't move back. But then, you know, where they have their, you know, like they, you know, I'm going to use like a Bible quote, where your heart is, that's where your treasure lies. If you put your treasure in a place where you're not making money and doing everything, or where you're really making a living, you're going to have a problem growing there, because you're always going to feel like I'm a stranger here. And when you feel like you're a stranger or a visitor somewhere, you don't bring a chair or a bed to someone else's home, because you're always going to feel like, you know what? I don't belong here. This doesn't belong to me. So that acceptance that if you've decided that this is home for you, then build yourself first here. Then whatever else you want to build in Africa or what else, you can do that after you've built a solid foundation where you call home.
Wow. If you can be now back in be a teenager or be in your 20s, what will you do? And you have nothing. You have no education, but you are in the United States. You have no education. You have no family, and you are in your 20s. You're still a teenager. What will you do today to make sure you are where you are now? To make sure you are as successful as you are today? Starting like, how will you start from scratch to build all the things you have built nowadays? What will you do?
I don't think I would do anything that I've done differently, because what I did was I had a plan. And my plan was, within the year after I came to the US, I started college, and even within 2 weeks after I got here was when I started looking for a job. And, and, and I found good friends, good people to surround yourself with, because that is also very important. And knowing, if you know where you're going, if you have a goal in mind and you don't have a plan B for that goal, I think your chances of success is higher than someone who doesn't really know what they want to do, who just goes with the winds. When everyone is going this way, they go that way. When everyone is going that way, they go that way. Because I had a lot of people discourage me at that time that, why do you want to become a lawyer? Why do you want to go to law school? People don't hire African lawyers. They only hire lawyers who, white Jewish lawyers. I had loads of discouragement. But then I was just so determined that, you know what? Just because someone hasn't done it before, because at that time too, I didn't know anyone of African descent who was a lawyer. I didn't know anyone, but I just decided, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. And I kept at it. So I would say that for someone who maybe just coming, who is around that same age, what they should just do is that, especially when they're within that insular immigrant culture, because a lot of discouragement also comes from within the culture, because there's limitation placed on people that, okay, this is what everyone is doing, you should do it too. This is what everyone is doing, you should know, oh, no, they don't do this, they don't do that. You should be willing and able to think outside the box. Find a good mentor. Find someone who is in line with what you're willing to do or what you're trying to do. Go talk to them. Let them encourage you. Let them tell you how to get there. That's what is going to make it easier for you. And don't believe the naysayers. They're going to tell you it's not possible. They're going to tell you, Africans don't do this. Yes, they're going to put you in a box. You have to get out of that box. But it takes a lot of self-talk, strong will, and confidence, and the willingness to go against the grain to do that.
I wish somebody has told me that 10, 20 years later, but hearing it from today, it gives me even more energy to keep going. What are some books that have helped you in the journey? Because I saw in an interview of yours that your favorite book is The Alchemist. I read it too. Amazing book. Do you have any other book you would recommend anybody, not just Africans, that if they read, that can help them in there? It can be with happiness, success, making money. Any books you would recommend for anyone who's watching this video?
Yes, you can pick up a copy of my book as well, The Flavor of Favor, Quest for the American Dream, a memoir. It details my journey, from Nigeria, coming to the US, going through all the ups and downs. That's also a very good book that I can recommend, that if you want an inspiration. And The Alchemist is fiction. That is real life. And some of those experiences are applicable to the journey that people are going through.
You mentioned, when you were speaking, you mentioned that the only limitations can come winning the culture, winning the African, win the immigrant culture. Can you expand on that and explain how can somebody break from those limitations? Because it even happened to me. People told me, oh, you're making videos on YouTube. You crazy. Focus on your degree. Why you working out with bricks? Because I don't have a gym, so I work out with bricks. Oh my God, you crazy. Why you wearing the same shirt every day? The first one who's gonna put you down are your own of your own. How were you able to break those limitations, and how can other people do so? And why? Why is it important to sometimes don't listen to even your family, not even your friends, if you want to succeed?
Yeah, that's where it is very important. That's where that strong will. I would call it positive stubbornness. You've got to have it. Otherwise, if you don't have it, they will pull you down. And also look at the people giving you advice, telling you that something is not doable. If you look at them and you see that, you know what, whatever life they're living, that's the life you want to lead. If their life inspires you, then maybe they can have a sway on you. But do this, you can do this, you can do that. And what they're doing itself does not inspire you. You know, there is a saying in Yoruba that if someone offers to give you a shirt as a gift, watch what they are wearing first before you accept it. So admonitions, advice can't just come from anybody. They have to come from people that you know that they are already doing well. And if you can't find that within your community, go outside. Go outside, find someone that you know is doing well. Call them up, send them emails, tell them you want them to mentor you. That's the only way you can get outside of that mindset. Otherwise, those who are down will not let you go up because they're not used to seeing anyone climb that mountain. And out of fear and out of the fear of the unknown, they will keep you down with them as well. Sometimes they're not doing it out of malice, or they're not doing it out of because they want to hurt you. They're only advising you based on their own limited knowledge, but they just don't know that they don't know. And the last thing you can get is to get direction from someone who doesn't even know where they're going as well.
Wow. Thank you. You mentioned having mentors. Will you mentor me? Even with
Okay.
this video, I already got enough mentorship from you.
Yeah,
See?
you have my contact information. Yes.
So you can mentor me. Thank you. Well, we have only 2 minutes left before the Zoom close. I will have keep asking you more questions, but I want to keep it short because I know we're gonna do a part 2 if you let me sometime in the future. But is there anything, any words you want to share with those that are gonna watch this video? Any last
Yeah,
advice?
yeah, I would just say, thank you very much for having this platform and for setting this up so that you can inspire people, educate other people within the African diaspora so that they don't have to struggle. What I can say is that if you're watching this and I don't know, maybe you're just starting off or you have been here for years and you're not moving forward. All I can tell you is that sometimes to get out of the pit, the only way up the only way out is up. You have to think outside the box. You
Yeah,
can't keep doing the same thing and expect a different
different
result.
results.
Yes.
Agree. And you have a YouTube channel as well, so anybody can go and check it out because it has plenty interviews with amazing and wise people. Free knowledge. You're gonna get it from YouTube. It's free. Please go and learn. But also, Olawale Law Firms located in Columbus. Anyone who's, I think you guys do injury, you guys do immigration processes, right?
Correct.
See, I documented myself before the interview. Go check them out. They're gonna offer you the best service. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Emmanuel. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. All right.
Bye.
Bye.